So I've made some videos about the so-called right-wing uprising, which on the face of it appears to be religious or Christian, but is really not. Now, the only genuine right wing in politics is a religious institution, is something of a patriarchy or church and state married. Anything beside that, at least in the modern times, is actually really just another brand of socialism. And that is what fascism is, without going into too much detail. It's something that is called right-wing, but is actually socialist. Now, the reason for that is that when capital grew large enough that the only way forward for society was socialism, that rendered the left and the right paradigm completely null and void. Capital abolishes everything in its wake, and for that reason, religion has decreased and socialism has risen to take its place. No longer is there charity, instead there is welfare. And this is because the concept of value has been diminished. But I'm really not here to discuss capital and politics. There is actually no right wing. The only right wing is like I guess you could call it a straw man, but straw man is not really the right word. It's a fiction that's created by the elite who control both sides of the political spectrum, because capital is king and capital sits directly in the middle of social affairs and directs them. The social affairs will only be beholden to the wishes of capital, not the reverse. Capital does not obey what the people wish. The people obey what capital needs. And that is how it's been since World War II, really before, since the Industrial Revolution. This is what really the communists were talking about. So there is no right wing. So the right wing that you're seeing, the ostensible return to tradition, or return to pre-socialist values, it's in fact, like I said in another video, it's a bait and switch, and this is the case with Trump, and this is also the case with Europe. Now, I'm not too familiar with European politics, although I know that with this Ausländer-Raus business, there is a rising sentiment of anti-immigration and ethnic homogeneity, return to religion on the surface. But again, as I've said, none of this is rooted in actually any discipline or genuine faith. and his sincerity. It's only it's all an aesthetic. But with the UK, this uprising is coming in the form of an anti-immigration sentiment and an anti-Muslim sentiment, primarily being led by the figure Tommy Robinson. Now, I've not really had an opinion on him either way, and I've carefully watched him for years, and I've always suspected that there was something going on in the background. I said in a previous video that I believe his motive is sincere, and it's possible that it is, because it's possible that he's simply a lackey. But it's interesting, the protest that he had on Saturday, the demonstration, whatever you want to call it. I follow the Lotus Eaters podcast, so I get updates on Sargon, Carl Benjamin, and he uploaded his speech that he did there at the weekend, and I saw in the background an endorsement, or at least the affiliation for the event was Tommy Robinson's media outfit, which is called Urban Scoop. So I looked up Urban Scoop, and one of the first articles on there is an endorsement of Israel. Now, anyone who knows anything about global politics knows that the push for multiculturalism and immigration comes from Jewish intellectuals. I find it interesting that Tommy Robinson, being so anti-Muslim, is also very pro-Israel, and it's also the case that his documentary Silence, or whatever it was called, was funded in large part by InfoWars and Alex Jones, who many have also suspected for many years that he is affiliated with Israel. Both of these figures are Trump supporters, and Trump is probably the biggest Jewish influence in American politics, even more so than the Democrat Party. Trump is surrounded by Jews wherever he goes, within his party and within his own family. Now, Jews have played both sides for centuries. This has been true since the Napoleon War. They fund both sides of every war, and they play one side off against the other. And the case is no different today. This so-called right-wing uprising is a bait and switch. On the one hand, it's used to control the opposition to their plans, and on the other, they use the reactionary incitement to install more laws, more censorship of free speech, more surveillance. But the bait and switch will come when this right-wing uprising will be directed towards a particular end that is going to serve the interests of Jews in the end. Which is why I always say to be careful about where you place your loyalties. You should really look for no gurus and no leaders. You should look for no groups. You should look for no community to be a part of. Even the church, because they're all infiltrated. Mystery Babylon is marching on, and it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And Tommy Robinson is no different.